Hi there, and welcome to the Couples Expert Podcast. This is Stuart Fensterheim, the Couples Expert, joining you again to talk about the important issues of life that impact the relationships that we're in and how to really maintain a relationship where the two of you feel so connected that you are certain your partner has your back and that the two of you are in this world together creating something really beautiful, which is a connection that the two of you have that will keep the two of you feeling loved and important in this world to the one person in this world that matters the most to you, which is the partner that you're spending your life with. You know, I was thinking today, life is funny. I bring on to my podcast different folks to really talk about issues that can make a difference. And in my life with my wife, we recently have been invited to a number of weddings. I have a nephew who's getting married in Chicago in June, and have a number of people in my life that have recently invited me to go to weddings. And in addition to all of that, I have recently brought into my practice, which is the Couples Expert here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And if you want to check me and my practice out, you can go on the web and go to www.thecouplesexperts.com, and that's experts with an S at the end.com. There you could see all the things that we're doing, which is this podcast, as well as my 3-Minute with Stuart videos on my YouTube channel, and different programs that we have going, including my Couples Weekend. But more importantly, having to do with today's podcast, you will see that there is a counselor there by the name of Kelsey Blythe. Kelsey is a counselor that I've brought into my practice because she has experience that really is a benefit to this practice. One of the things that she is doing is running my premarital programs. Kelsey runs a program here in which we help couples really set out and have a good beginning to your marriage, a connection and understanding attachments and understanding what it really takes to really have a relationship that you can make a commitment to getting married and will last you a lifetime. And Kelsey herself is getting married, and that just happened within the last few weeks. And she's from Auburn, Alabama. And I'm going to be having Kelsey on this podcast today to talk a lot about premarital counseling, about her experience, and some of what she's going to have here at the Couples Expert to help all couples in the world have a fantastic beginning to your marriage. Let me tell you a little bit more about Kelsey, though. Kelsey is a marriage and family therapist and is so passionate about the work she does. What she understands is a clear idea of the cycles that really prevent couples from really relating to each other in a way that is helping them feel secure. And her background is really interesting. And part of why I hired her is both personally and professionally. She is someone who is so incredibly warm, comes from a family where they really understood how important it is to have everyone there feel secure. And her background of living a life with a family that really allowed each person in the family to feel like an individual and also feel loved and secure. So she really has a good foundation and a clear understanding as well of what it's going to take couples from feeling disconnected to feeling connected. And what she has experience in is emotionally focused therapy. And that is the attachment model that I work under. And I want to really introduce you to her and have all of you get to know her and know that she is available to really help you in a really specific, clear pathway to having a relationship that really will allow the two of you to have a lifetime of love where you know that you're with that one person in the world who loves you more than anyone else. So I want you to check her out. Check her out on the website, listen to her. But more importantly, today on this podcast, what we're going to do is talk about the importance of premarital counseling and why it is really an essential piece today in this world to developing a relationship, a marriage, in where you two can feel secure in tying that knot. So, Kelsey, welcome to the Couples Expert Podcast. I understand this is your first podcast, so that's great. So I'm glad to be the one that sort of brings you on this journey of podcasting. So, Kelsey, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be doing this. It's my first ever podcast.
Oh, that's terrific. And I knew that because we've talked a little bit about that. And one of the things I wanted to, first of all, before we do anything else, is just wish you a Happy New Year and a Merry Christmas. Tell me again what your Christmas was like, and do you have any plans for the new year?
Sure, my Christmas was fantastic. I got to go home with my fiance for the first time since we got engaged. So, on top of spending Christmas with our family, we got to celebrate our new engagement. So, it was very fun. And I'm from Alabama, so that's where we spent Christmas. But for New Year's, one of my best friends is getting married, and that's what I'll be doing on New Year's Eve.
On New Year's Eve, you're going to be at a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think that would be like to be at a wedding, knowing that you're not too far down the road?
Oh, for my own wedding?
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty excited. My fiance's actually never been to a wedding before, so I'm excited for him to go and see what it's like.
He's never been at any wedding ever?
Not since I think when he was 5, he was a ring bearer, and that's about the last time.
That's pretty amazing. So are you going to be pointing out, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that?
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
When is your wedding?
We're going to get married in October. That's his fall break, so the best time that we could go on a honeymoon. That worked out.
That sounds just wonderful. And one of the things that I want to make sure we talk about today, and that is the purpose of this podcast, is that we're going to be talking a lot about premarital counseling, why that's important, a little bit about that. And one of the things that I know that you do here at the Couples Expert is that you are going to be running a premarital program. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But before we even get into that, what I always ask some of my guests is a bit about what led you to deciding to be a couples counselor, and for you joining the practice over the last couple of months, a little bit about what you're looking forward to at the Couples Expert and why you chose the specialty you did choose.
I decided to be a marriage counselor because I've really always been fascinated with love. I think it's this amazing, magical thing that, people really live for, and it can be completely detrimental if we don't have it. And I think it's one of the most important things to help people to have successfully and to do well. Being happy with your partner is really the key to success, in my opinion. And being able to help people connect in ways that they desperately want to but can't for some reason or another, it's almost a privilege to do. It really is a privilege. People letting us into their lives and opening up and getting to help them have that. It's great work. I'm glad to be doing it.
One of the things you mentioned just a moment ago was that it's a privilege. Can you talk a little bit more about that concept?
Sure. Well, what I meant really was that working with couples is a privilege because it's something that I don't take lightly. I think that when people come here and they sit on our couch and they tell us all of, their deepest, darkest fears and worries and things going on really in their most important relationship, it's a privilege to be able to take part in that and to become part of that system to help them. I find it to be such an honor that people trust us and come to me with the thing that's the most important to them.
That's true, but I do want to pick up on that other concept that having a relationship with someone also is a privilege, someone to let you in a particular way. How do you see that also playing itself out for your decision to be a couples counselor?
Sure. Well, I'm actually going to take this a step further and say why I think it's so important for premarital counseling, because marriage and love itself is not a guarantee. It's not something that just lasts forever and ever without effort, without work. I think, like you're saying, relationships are a privilege and love is the biggest blessing. And it's something that we should make an effort on, each and every day. something that deserves all the effort and attention we can possibly give it. And that's something I really enjoy getting couples to focus on and to work on together, because it's something I think that we often take for granted.
The concept of that love will just sort of happen, or are you talking about the maintenance of it or keeping it alive?
I think maybe both. There's sort of this idea that, if it's meant to be, it'll be easy, or if we're really in love, we'll always be happy. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that if you're in love, you have every opportunity to be happy, and it's really the biggest key to happiness. But that's something that, it's like having a car, having a job. You don't just show up in it and it's great. You put a lot of effort towards it. You work for it. And the same thing goes for your relationship. It's something that deserves a lot of care and maintenance. And if you're able to do that, then there's really nothing better.
So I'm thinking as you're saying that, I'm having this image of polishing my car with wax. Well, how would you then define that in a relationship, that polish?
I even think like changing the oil or putting gas in the car. Just because you have a car doesn't mean that it's going to run all the time. There's things that you need to do daily, really, to make sure your car is going to be able to start up. You can't just leave the battery on all the time. And same thing goes for a relationship. You have to really maintain it and work on it. And
So Kelsey, you're talking about maintaining it. If you think about a relationship and what it might take in order for that relationship to be able to be sustained, whether there are bumps in the road, to keep the metaphor going, or not, what do you think that requires of each person so that they can get through whatever bumps might happen?
there's a lot of things to that. It's sort of hard to answer that in one sentence, but I think one of the biggest keys is to making your partner feel important. I think someone asked me a couple weeks ago what my number one advice would be for couples, and I couldn't think of anything at the time, so hopefully they'll listen and hear this. I certainly think that every day in your actions, making your partner know how important they are to you is part of that maintenance. I think one thing that we really crave out of a partner is comfort and stability. And we sort of get that confused with becoming mundane. And we have this idea that marriage may become boring after a time, or a routine. Some people report, my partner is more like a roommate. And really, I think it's possible with maintenance to take that so much further and be able to have a happy, fun relationship continually. It can be developing and changing and new and fun and loving constantly if you make the effort to have it that way.
And I think part of the criteria of that does become issues of laughter and joy and playfulness, and being able to let your partner know how important they are, as you mentioned a moment ago, but it doesn't have to be the same. So if we talk about having a relationship with someone for your entire lifetime, which everyone wants and craves for, how do you keep it new and exciting isn't always the same day one and day 5,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
So from a premarital counseling standpoint, what are some of the things do you feel like people need to talk about to make sure that they can keep them both feeling like they have each other's back?
Yeah, sure. So one thing I like to say is that when it comes to relationships, prevention is so much more efficient than, dealing with problems when they become hard, fast, and big. It's a lot like medical health care. And my biggest belief about premarital counseling is not that you iron out any details beforehand, or, discuss all the content questions, but it's that you're able to have conversations when it gets hard. Because relationships are easy when we're happy and we're on the same page. The hard thing is when you're staring at someone that you adore and love and you completely don't agree with them. And that means a whole lot different when you're talking about dinner, or when you're talking about how many children you want to have. And so it's not necessarily that you need to, decide all those things right now, but what my goal would be for couples is to be able to have those conversations and have the type of relationship where they can be honest and connected, even when things get tougher.
I had a conversation recently with my wife about this, because we were talking a bit over the holidays. Holidays can be a fun time, but there can be a lot of stress too.
Yeah.
And we were in a place where we weren't quite seeing eye to eye on things, and I was actually making some misinterpretations of her that happens sometimes in all couples. And what we began to talk about is how we each was feeling that we weren't there for one another. And one of the things that we were able to do at that moment is talk about some of the differences between our relationship now and other relationships we've had. And one of the things that came up for me more than anything wasn't that my wife always does things that pleases me. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of things that sometimes happens that we get into these conflicts, but what we have that is so incredibly different than what we've ever had with another relationship is someone who cared that there was a distance, and that our distance from one another was so painful to both of us that both of us have a clear commitment, and we do it in words and in actions, in every way that we do, that when someone is unhappy, the other person always says, I want to make that go away. I want to talk about it. I want to deal with it. I will not walk away and say, we're not going there. That to me is true love.
Absolutely. I think what you said was absolutely beautiful, because the first thing I heard you say was you're able to talk about that you feel like you're not really being there for each other. I mean, that's something that so many couples aren't able to do, because when you feel that way, your first thought is, does this person not care about me? Does this person not think how I feel is important? And what I want to help couples to be able to do is to be secure in that connection, so that when they're feeling that way, they can address it together, like you're saying that you were able to do. I think that's wonderful.
And I think the issue that comes up with that because what I heard you say a few minutes ago is that it's not about working out all the different details, money or sex or family issues, though that's important to talk about. But the most important one is, are we a couple who care enough, are committed enough, are vulnerable enough to say, I will be there for you regardless, and that no issue is more important than how we feel about each other.
Yes, absolutely. That's it in a nutshell.
So how do you create that in a premarital situation for couples when they don't always have all those experiences yet?
Well, it's different for different premarital counseling, but in my opinion, I think any couple who wants to have it certainly can. I think sometimes people come to counseling wondering, is it the right thing? Is this the right person, for a commitment? And if you want to have that type of relationship, I 100% believe that you can have it if you both are willing and wanting. So that's really the good news. And being able to help couples have that is sort of just stepping into their specific relationship. I think premarital counseling should be just as customized as any other type of counseling. It can sort of get the reputation of being a little bit more surface level when you come in and you talk about kids and finances and, what everyone needs to be talking about. But really, if it's tailored to your life, your experiences, your relationship, then we can help you to be able to have that connection with your partner if that's what you're both wanting.
There's a lot of people out there doing this, though. You see programs, you see, different workshops. What makes the program that you're designing any different than some of the other ones? Are they all the same, or, and it's really just sort of a crapshoot, or what would make a person come to one program as opposed to the other?
I think everyone out there who's doing premarital counseling is doing great work, and I've no criticisms to make at all. But I did look at the other programs that exist and sort of looked for what's missing and put my experience doing emotionally focused therapy in there. And what I saw was that a lot of programs focus really on the content. And what I do takes the principles that we use at the Couples Expert using emotionally focused therapy, which really has a clearly defined path and focuses on the connection that you have with your partner. My idea would be that I'm not going to be a fly on the wall every time a couple has, a dispute or something they don't agree on. So what I want to be able to help couples do is to have that ability to connect, stay connected, have a secure foundation. That way they can take what they learn here and apply it to whatever they need to come to an agreement on, whatever they need to discuss, regarding their relationship and their marriage.
And I think for those that aren't as familiar with emotionally focused therapy, what you're really saying is that we use an attachment model, and that, for many years, there was the belief in some ways that, part of what happens in couples counseling is negotiating skills and doing those things. But what you're really saying is that what you're going to be doing differently is really getting to the heart of the matter about what would be necessary for a couple to truly feel before they get married, or even, the process may begin before marriage. It may continue for many years after the marriage too. How do you make sure that your partner and you both feel like you're the one person in the world that no one cares about more than your partner?
Absolutely.
And that it's not a guessing game, that it's really a clear path now that we have, almost like a roadmap, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do you help couples create that feeling in the sessions? Is it just talking, or what do you do during the sessions that help couples really understand this?
So the way that I look at it is, you were talking about coming from an attachment lens. We look at each individual partner's, sort of history and how that plays into their relationship now. And that's something that I think is so important, because my belief is that everyone is sort of, the sum of their experiences. And there's not just, steadfast rules. I wish there was, a 7-step how to have successful marriage, but it's more detailed than that. And what we're able to do here in session is to get each partner to sort of understand where the other person's coming from, and to point out some areas where they, may have completely differing ideals based on, how they were raised, their relationships prior, and their expectations. So it's really customized to help each couple with areas that they specifically may have, trouble with down the road. But what we do in session is to help them to have the right conversation. I think a lot of times couples get into these loops where they're talking about something, but it never really seems to go anywhere, or maybe they just stop talking about it because it hasn't been very productive. And what I do is it's not communication skills. It's different than that. It's helping each partner to connect and to be heard, and to show their partner also that they hear them, and so that they get the right message across.
And it's about an experience that quite often does happen in the couples sessions, which is they then experience each other a little different than what they realize. And what I talk about a lot on this podcast, as well as in my sessions, is part of what we create. And the reason that we call it an experiential model, that the premarital counseling or postmarital counseling is very much experiential, is it's not just talk. It's you begin to see your partner in so many different ways, and you begin to have an experience where you'll look at your partner, and part of what you may be talking about, do we want to have children or not? But what you're really talking about is, do you care enough about what's important to me to really be present with me? And am I going to then look at you and say, wow, I didn't know this about you. I didn't know that this was something that's important to you, and the reason it's important to you. If you can have those dialogues, then you can connect on a very deeper level than just, I want kids because I want someone to carry my name.
Yeah, absolutely. And hearing you say that, I was just thinking how beautiful it is to have couples coming in and doing this in the beginning of their life together. Because so often we have people coming in when these things have really been an issue for a while, and they've lived a life, for some time where they felt very alone because of different issues. And I just think it's great that we get to do this and help couples to not have to go through that. I don't think anyone needs to be alone, and everyone deserves to be happy and feel loved. And with this program, people are very much able to do that and stay connected to their partner. And that's really the goal.
Yes, it's absolutely the goal. But what's sort of interesting about premarital work is, and it goes along with something you said earlier about, I think you had mentioned something about having a family doctor or physician, and that you believe that counseling is not that different than taking care of, one is taking care of your body and this is taking care of your relationship. That so often people have this image that couples counseling is for people who are close to breaking up. And it's not about making a good relationship into a great relationship. And if couples come into their marriage to that one most important relationship in their life, saying, we're going to find someone together that we can talk to about all these issues, we now have a family counselor. Not family counselor for your family, but a counselor who our family has as a resource so that if we have a struggle down the road, we have someone. And no different, in my opinion, as with family doctor, you want to get a annual physical. Wouldn't it be something to start out with the premarital program and then through the lifetime of your relationship, have someone that you two can just check in with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would love it if all couples had that. I think it's such a shame that we don't have, our regular family counselor that we go to whenever there's, a bump in the relationship. It would be great if that's something that people could have, and that's really would be the dream for me, to be able to work with couples and then be able to check in when different things come up in the future, because relationships develop and change over time, and there are different things that will come up.
And at, 20 or 30 or 70, what you deal with is so different that if you have someone that knows you that well and that the two of you together really feel like you know each other so well, you can just do a session here and there and know that we're going to deal with this, it's going to be out of the way, and it isn't a threat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Kelsey, when you think about this program and think about, premarital counseling in terms of, and I guess I want to ask you a personal question here, being that you're about to endeavor on a marriage yourself, how do you see that your upcoming marriage impacts your work as a therapist with couples? Do you feel like it does?
Well, I've been working in this field since, before I was engaged, and I would like to think that, not being married, you can do the work the same, but the reality of it is that you have so much more of an insight when you're going through the exact same thing. And I think that's a lot of what sparked my interest in working with premarital couples, because this time is just such a huge transition. My fiance and I live together now before we're married, so we're sort of going through the transition that a lot of couples get to at the very beginning of their marriage, because that's sometimes when people move in together. And we're very different people than we were a year ago when he was living in Arizona and I was living in Alabama in our own places. There's just so many different things and expectations of the relationship. And I certainly think that that's something that I'll be thinking about with my couples going forward, is that I have so much personal experience with this time and transition.
So, as you're about to endeavor yourself on getting married, what do you feel like you've learned through the years of working in this field about relationship that either makes your relationship with your partner either less of a challenge or gives you a new insight?
I got into this field also because it's a great thing to be able to work on your own life through what you do for a living. I always wanted to take what I learned here to have my own successful relationships. And I'd like to say being a marriage counselor, helps you in your relationships. But one of the biggest things that I've learned is that both people play a part equally. And the best thing that I've learned is really that I don't always know what's right and I don't always have the answer. And so being with my partner, I have to be exactly like my clients. I'm not the therapist and I'm not the expert. We're on the exact same playing field. And the more that my fiance can give me feedback and can let me know what I'm not doing right and what I can do better to make him know how loved and important he is, the better that we are in the relationship. So it's almost like the more that I've learned how to do marriage counseling, the more I've learned I can't be a counselor in my own relationship.
And I think what we learn through our time doing this is the more we know about this, we recognize just how critical it is to have a relationship where we not only as counselors don't feel hypocritical, but also that we recognize the value and how much a relationship can make you feel so good about yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I think love and being loved is the most important thing. And that is one thing every single day that I have a couple come in, I think, what can I take from this to make sure my partner and I don't get here? It's really important. And every day I've learned and I've seen that it's so important to work on your relationship. It's something you just can't take for granted. It's something you have to make sure is you're showing and working on as important as it actually is.
And I think what you have to offer couples who are struggling or are looking to improve a relationship that are in a premarital stage is that your own experience you can reflect on and help them see how you look at it from a perspective of what can I do to help my partner feel important and how important it is to let your partner in, that because you're walking the walk also, you really have a different kind of perspective that you can give couples than someone who's been married for 20 years.
Yeah, sure. I really am proud of my relationship, and it is something that I think I can look at and say it's probably something that my premarital couples come in either having or want. And, that's all, Cindy will probably be listening to this. It's really a lot of thanks to him. He's wonderful. And he's really able to be there for me and be very emotionally present. And that's not something that everyone gets. And if I could give everyone that and help them to have it, that would be absolutely wonderful.
So, Kelsey, as we're about to close today, tell me a little bit more specifically about this program and what it entails.
I'm so excited about this program. I think it's going to be something that is going to be so helpful for couples. It's a 6-session program, and the first session is an intensive intake, just like we do with the rest of our couples that come in. That way, the program's really tailored to them. And the following 5 sessions cover different topics. They cover commitment, expectations, long-term goals, spirituality, values, sexualities, and throughout all of those topics, the real emphasis is their connection and their ability to have those conversations and to stay secure and connected on their own. So I'm really excited because I've looked at all of the programs that exist and tried to, include the topics that need to be talked about before marriage, the things I would love to make sure people, have a discussion about beforehand. But the most important thing that we are able to do here is let couples do that on their own, to teach them how to have that every single day and to be able to sit down and have their own conversations on these things. And I truly believe that my program will help couples to prepare for that, for a lifetime. I'm really excited about it.
And Kelsey, if someone is interested in receiving that information or more information about that, how would they get hold of you and what are the steps to do that?
Sure. So I'm available. I have lots of social media outlets right now. You can go to our website, www.thecouplesexperts.com. You can send me an email. We also offer a free 30-minute phone consultation. It's no obligations. You can call and set up an appointment with me or one of the other counselors here, and we'd be happy to answer any questions for you and sort of talk about how things work here.
Thank you, Kelsey, for sharing that. So one of the things I often do is end with a question to my guests about their own life and their own perspective. And you mentioned a moment ago about a gift. What do you think's a gift you've received from your work with couples that has helped you have a perspective of your own relationship?
I really have learned the value of love. I grew up in a family where I felt very loved and very secure in those relationships. And that's sort of became just an expectation. And through working with couples and what I've learned about, humans and how we survive, I've really come to understand the value of relationships. And every single day it's underscored for me how much those relationships are. And I take that home, to my fiance and to my family. And I just really try and focus on those relationships because it's not something that just happens. It's something that deserves a lot of work and attention and effort.
I just want to thank you for coming on and being part of this practice and the amount of giving and caring that you offer the couples that you work with and how much you give of yourself. I think so often people come into a counseling setting in which they see the counselor as sort of this expert who knows more than anyone, and we have to sort of do what the counselor says. And what you have really taken to heart, and what I see every day in my work with you here, is how much you give of yourself, that you really put yourself in this, and you work in such a team effort with the couples that you see. It's not about, I know more than you. It's about, the path, and you're going to guide them. You're a facilitator for them, and you give of your time and your energy and so much really give of you. You are so present with the couples that you see that they feel that. And that caring is something that can really take couples from point A, where they feel disconnected, and point B, where they feel and know that how important they are to one another. And that's because of your caring for them and your willingness to give as much as it takes to get them to where you feel would be the best place for them, where they know that their partner is really there for them.
Well, thank you. I think it's such an honor to get to work here and to get to work with the couples who work so hard with me every day. I think being loved and being happy is something we can really reach, but it's something we get afraid to, or we feel kind of stuck sometimes. And to be able to step into someone's relationship, something that's so, so important, but can be so, so painful at times, is really just an honor. And I'm thankful to all my couples that let me work with them and let me into their lives.
Thank you again, Kelsey, for joining us. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in again to the Couples Expert Podcast, where every week we bring to you experts in the field of relationships to help you have that most incredible relationship where the two of you know that you're in this world together and nothing will stand in the way of you being together forever. Take care and stay connected. Bye-bye.